This is going to be a video about, well, Via Rail, Canada's national passenger railroad, or the national system of passenger railroads that Canada uses on freight railroad track. Okay, while most of what I'm saying is true, part of it isn't, but the point of this video is going to be just how bad Via Rail really is in comparison to even Amtrak, and we all know Amtrak is pretty outdated in comparison to the rest of the industrialized world. But if you think Amtrak is really outdated and horrendous, oh boy, wait until you watch this video about Via Rail and the painful journey that I took from Toronto to Ottawa with my friend Daniel. First of all, Via Rail's trains go super slow, and I mean very slow, at least in comparison to other industrialized nations, even compared to most of the trains in the United States that run on a passenger network. And I'm talking about most of the Northeast Corridor, or in between Rochester to Buffalo, or New York City to Buffalo, and so on and so forth. However, most of this trip we were going insanely slow, and I'm talking about under 100 kilometers per hour, like in this clip right here. However, I'm going to make a whole separate and actually very detailed video about why Via Rail is bad, but enjoy this quick little snippet. I have a bunch of clips from this train ride, but as you can see, I'm only including a few because this is really just a little introduction / snippet to a larger video I'm going to make. This part of the train ride, I believe, was taken near Ottawa, or the town of Smiths Falls, Ontario, and as you can see, we're still going snail speed, and we're passing by some pretty ugly scenery. At least there's no snow. Well, there shouldn't be any snow because it's kind of almost the middle of April, but you get the idea. Anyways, here are a few photos of the train cars themselves. Here are a few photos from inside of Via Rail's train cars. They are pretty outdated and pretty ugly in comparison to the train cars in some other countries, but I mean, at least the train station is pretty nice in Ottawa, and while I've seen better looking train stations, I think Toronto Union is even better looking than this one in Ottawa. I mean, at least there's seating, and at least there's a nice little ticket booth, and a couple vending machines and some restaurants, so I guess you really can't complain, especially when you have some pretty clean restrooms, at least in my experience, and a nice little floor to drop your wallet on, by the way, but okay, that's sarcasm. However, the truth is, Ottawa's train station is pretty nice in comparison to even Toronto Union. So to sum it all up, this whole train ride was 5 hours each way. And while we arrived on time going to Ottawa from Toronto, we arrived about a half an hour to 45 minutes late coming back from Ottawa back to Toronto. And most of this is attributed to the fact that Canada is one of the few developed countries in the world where passenger trains need to yield to freight trains and not vice versa, which is absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. Because don't you think a train full of passengers and desperate people should be getting priority over a train carrying stuff that isn't okay, so yeah, sorry about that. But I did that on purpose. However, don't you think a train carrying passengers and desperate people should be getting the priority versus a train carrying non-human stuff like freight, oil, gasoline, food, and other stuff? I mean, yeah, the food part you can argue because we need food to survive, but I really think it's absolutely ridiculous that we, on the passenger train, do not get priority when the freight train does, but that's a whole rant for a whole other video. Overall, this whole trip wasn't terrible. It wasn't great, and I still think it was pretty bad, but, I mean, you can't really complain too much, because at least the train got us there and back in a timely manner, or at least a somewhat timely manner. However, take a look at these photos of Amtrak cars and on-board Amtrak trains in the United States. They are still pretty outdated in comparison to trains in, say, Japan, China, the Netherlands, Germany, or Italy, or Spain, and most of Europe for that matter, or even possibly Morocco and Northwest Africa, but it's still nowhere near as good as those countries. And like I said, Amtrak and Via Rail, you guys have a long, long way to go, and yeah, this, by the way, is how I started my journey to Ottawa from Niagara Falls once I crossed the border into Canada on the wonderfully shaky Canadian National Railroad-owned tracks riding the GO train from Niagara Falls to Toronto. That is going to be it for this video, and hopefully you guys will be able to see the whole video that I'm making sometime soon.